The faint scrape of a butter knife on toast echoed in the quiet kitchen. Emily sat at the counter, spreading jam with care. Across from her, James sipped his coffee, eyes fixed on his tablet. The silence between them was heavy, familiar, a language of absence honed over years. Dawn light slipped through the blinds, catching the gray in James's hair. Hair Emily once ran her fingers through. He didn't look up. When he spoke, his voice was flat. "Honestly, Emily, I think we were a mistake." The words landed like a stone in her chest. She paused, knife in hand, but didn't meet his gaze. The statement didn't need repeating. It was sharp enough to break something fragile inside her. She didn't ask why. She didn't cry. She set the knife down, stood, and walked upstairs. Their bedroom was orderly. The bed made, her scarf on the hook, James's keys in a dish. 30 years of routines, of raising a daughter, of small triumphs and silent fights. It felt like a stranger's life now. Emily pulled a canvas bag from the closet, its straps worn from market trips. She packed deliberately, a sweater, 2 blouses, her sketchbook. Each item was folded with precision, not for nostalgia, but for respect for what was. She paused at the sketchbook, its pages filled with drawings of gardens she'd never planted, dreams she'd tucked away. She slipped it into the bag, then stopped. At the nightstand, she tucked it into a drawer. Those sketches belonged here, to the woman she'd been. She wasn't sure who she was becoming, but she'd find out unburdened. Downstairs, James hadn't moved, his coffee now cold. He didn't ask where she was going. Emily took her keys, opened the door, and stepped into the crisp Connecticut morning. The air smelled of pine and frost. She didn't slam the door. She didn't leave a note. She left with what she needed. Emily had always thought her marriage was steady. She and James weren't loud with love, but they had a rhythm. Bills paid, dinners cooked, a shared laugh over old movies. They met when she was 25, a florist with dirt under her nails, and he was 28, an accountant with a shy smile. He'd bring her coffee on weekends. She'd arrange daisies for his desk. They married in a park, her dress simple, his vows earnest. They weren't rich, but they were partners, or so she believed. When their daughter, Claire, was born, Emily left the flower shop. It was love, not loss, she told herself. James worked late, crunching numbers, providing. Emily became the anchor, packing lunches, planning birthdays, tending the backyard. Every Sunday, she made French toast, a tradition she cherished, even as Claire grew up and James grew quiet. She prided herself on the unseen work, knowing James liked his shirts folded, his coffee black, his desk clear. When Claire left for college, Emily hoped she and James would reconnect, maybe travel to Maine, plant a garden. But James sank into work, his evenings spent with reports or TV. Her questions got nods, her stories half heard. She filled the silence with gardening, her book club, volunteering at the library. It was just marriage, she thought. There were good moments. Some mornings, James left her tea on the counter. On her birthday, he'd buy her earrings, always silver. Emily held those gestures close, proof love lingered. But she felt the distance grow. His eyes passing over her, his shrugs dismissing her ideas. "You're too sensitive," he'd say when she mentioned feeling alone. So she stopped. The first crack came at Claire's engagement dinner. Emily had spent weeks planning, arranging roses, baking a lemon cake, setting tables in their backyard. She wore a green dress that felt like her old self. James arrived late, tie loose, muttering about a client. Claire thanked her dad for always having her back. Emily smiled, but her heart sank. No one mentioned the roses, the cake, her quiet labor. Later, washing dishes, James said, You went overboard. The words stung, careless and cold. The dismissals piled up. James cut off her book club stories with, "You overthink those novels." When she shared garden plans, he'd nod, eyes on his phone. At a block party, someone asked about her flowers. James laughed. "She's always digging in the dirt." The group chuckled, and Emily shrank, her smile fixed. She kept gardening, kept baking, but the joy faded. She wrote in a journal, not plans, but truths. "I'm here, but invisible," she wrote. "Still me, still fading." It was a chilly November Sunday when Emily's world shifted. She'd planned a brunch for Claire's visit, setting out homemade scones and chrysanthemums. Claire arrived, distracted, with her fiancé. James was late, stuck at the office. When he walked in, he barely glanced at the table. "Smells sugary," he said, grabbing coffee. At brunch, Claire talked wedding plans, and Emily offered ideas, floral arches, venues. Claire nodded, uninterested. James joked about Emily's need to fuss. "She'd replant the whole state if we let her," he said. Claire laughed. Emily stared at her plate, scones untouched. In the kitchen, hands trembling, she gripped the sink, the frost outside blurring her garden. That night, after Claire left, James touched her arm. "Nice job today," he said, heading to the den. Emily sat alone and wrote, "I'm done being the shadow in my story." 2 weeks later, Emily stood in her bedroom, holding a scarf she hadn't worn in years, bright coral, a color she'd loved. She tried it on, meeting her reflection. Tired, but not gone. She packed her bag, Claire's baby photo, her trowel, a pearl brooch from her mom. She left the sketchbook, a farewell to the woman who stayed. James came home as she stood in the kitchen, sipping tea. "You get the mail?" he asked, missing the bag. Emily set her mug down. "I'm leaving, James. I'm staying with Rachel." He blinked. "What's this about?" Her voice was steady. "I need to know who I am beyond your wife, Claire's mom. This isn't enough." James stared, silent. He didn't ask her to stay. Emily walked out, the cold air sharp. Rachel, her book club friend, welcomed her with a hug and a spare room. That night, Emily sat on the bed, bag unpacked, and wrote in a new journal. "I'm not running. I'm choosing me." The first week at Rachel's was unsteady. Emily woke to quiet, not James's alarm. She helped Rachel cook, joined her at the nursery, but felt lost without her roles. One night, in the kitchen, she sat on the floor, the weight of her unseen years pressing down. "I don't know how to be without being needed," she whispered. On day 5, Emily found an old sketch in her bag, a rose garden she'd never planted. She bought seeds, not for a committee, but for herself. That evening, she planted them in Rachel's yard, the soil grounding her. Creating for herself felt like waking up. Rachel noticed. "You're lighter," she said over tea. Emily smiled. "I'm remembering." She started small, walking alone, sketching, joining Rachel's painting class. Her first canvas was messy, but hers. She cooked for herself, trying new spices. She called Claire to share a story, not to check in. Claire promised to visit. Emily didn't announce her plans. She opened a bank account, her signature firm. She contacted a lawyer about a cottage her aunt left her in Vermont, a place James called impractical. To Emily, it was freedom. She sketched a garden, a reading nook. James called, voice flat. "You getting your stuff?" Emily paused. "I have what I need." He hesitated. "So, that's it?" Her voice was calm. "I'm starting, James." A week later, he texted, "Where's the insurance file?" She replied, "Desk drawer, green folder." His silence said enough. Claire visited a month later. They walked through Rachel's garden, frost sparkling. "Dad showed me your journal," Claire said. "I didn't know you felt so alone." Emily nodded. "I didn't want you to carry it." Claire's eyes welled. "I'm sorry." Emily hugged her. "Let's start here." 6 months later, Emily moved to the cottage. It was small, with a view of green hills, but hers, walls painted lavender, a garden bed by the porch. One day, she picked up a box of gardening books from the old house. James opened the door, looking worn. "I read your journal," he said. "I didn't see you." Emily met his gaze. "You didn't look." "I thought we were fine," he said, voice low. "I tried to tell you," Emily said. "With every flower, every meal, every silence, you didn't hear." He nodded. "I see now." Emily took the box. "I'm not angry. I just don't live here." She left, the hills golden. A year later, Emily knelt in her garden, planting roses. Claire visited often, helping with the cottage, asking about her sketches. James sent a letter, acknowledging her heart, her absence. He'd signed over the house. Emily sold it, opening a flower stall in town. One evening, on her porch, Emily wrote, "I didn't leave to be alone. I left to be whole. I choose myself because I'm enough." A breeze carried rose scent. A hawk soared above. Emily closed her journal, her life her own.